Number 1. The Lantern Lady of Sem City, a ghost in the fog. In Sem City, there's an old district along the waterfront that locals avoid after sunset. Here wanders the Lantern Lady, a pale figure carrying a flickering lantern, her face hidden beneath a heavy cloak. People say she appears on foggy nights, silently gliding along deserted streets, watching those who dare pass by. The legend began in 1911, when a young woman named Marina Whitlock, a lighthouse keeper's daughter, disappeared during a thick fog while searching for her missing brother. She never returned, and the locals claimed that her spirit now roams the city, eternally searching for the lost. Soon after, sightings began, a faint glow appearing on empty streets, whispers of a woman calling names, and travelers who felt an icy breath on their necks as they passed. Witnesses report a chilling experience. The lantern's light seems to shift unnaturally, illuminating streets that don't exist, or casting shadows that move against the wind. Some see her standing still at intersections, only to vanish when approached. Others hear soft whispers calling them by name, beckoning them closer, and then feel a sudden chill that makes their skin crawl. In 1965, a group of local teenagers decided to follow the Lantern Lady one foggy night. They traced her light down winding alleys, past abandoned warehouses and old docks. The fog thickened, and the lantern's glow seemed closer yet impossibly far. One teen reached out toward her and vanished without a sound. The others ran, hearing her lantern's footsteps echoing behind them long after they had left the district. Locals insist the Lantern Lady doesn't just haunt the streets, she searches endlessly, drawn to the grief and fear of the living. Those who linger or follow her risk being drawn into the fog, lost forever, wandering invisible streets that only she can see. Even today, foggy nights in Sem City bring faint glimmers of her lantern. Some swear they hear her voice carried on the wind, softly calling names. Few dare to step outside after dark for fear of catching her attention. If you ever find yourself in Sem City's old waterfront at night, do not follow the lantern. Do not answer the whispers, because the Lantern Lady waits patiently, and some who chase her light are never seen again. Number 2. The Bell Tower of Sem City, Toll of the Forgotten. In the heart of Sem City stands an old bell tower abandoned for decades, yet locals claim its bell tolls at midnight, even though no one climbs its stairs. They call it the Bell Tower of the Forgotten and say it marks the presence of lost souls trapped between worlds. The story begins in 1928, when the tower's caretaker mysteriously disappeared. Soon after, townspeople began hearing the bell tolling in the dead of night. Some reported seeing shadowy figures in the windows, standing silently as if watching the streets below. Travelers who heard the bell up close spoke of a sudden chill, whispers in forgotten languages, and fleeting glimpses of figures who vanished when approached. Witnesses describe unsettling experiences. The bell's toll seems to stretch time. A single chime can feel like hours. Shadows twist unnaturally along the staircase, and stairwells appear to shift and lengthen. One urban explorer reported climbing the tower only to find each level empty yet echoing with faint footsteps. When he reached the top, the bell swung violently by itself, and a cold hand brushed his shoulder. He fled, claiming he could still hear the toll following him through the streets of Sem City. In 1962, a group of teens dared to spend a night beneath the tower. As the clock struck midnight, the bell tolled loudly, despite no wind or mechanism to move it.
Shadows stretched across the plaza, forming humanoid shapes that whispered names and secrets no one should know. One disappeared after stepping into the bell's faint glow, and the others fled, convinced that the tower itself had claimed him, trapping his soul within its walls. Locals warn that the bell tower of Sem City does not merely ring for the dead, it hunts the living, pulling those who linger into its endless darkness. The spirits of past caretakers, townspeople, and curious travelers roam its heights, forever trapped, forever tolling. Even today, on moonless nights, residents report hearing the bell chime, soft footsteps along the stairs, and cold gusts escaping the tower. Some swear they see shadowy figures at the windows, silently watching anyone who dares to look up. If you ever approach the old bell tower in Sem City after midnight, do not climb its stairs. Do not linger beneath its shadow, because the bell tower waits patiently, and some who hear its toll are never seen again.
Number 3. The Vanishing Bridge, Sem City's Cursed Crossing. On the outskirts of Sem City, an old wooden bridge stretches across a foggy river, abandoned but still standing. Locals whisper of the Vanishing Bridge, a place where travelers disappear mid-crossing, swallowed by mist or darkness, never to be seen again. The legend began in 1936, when a carriage loaded with goods crossed during a dense fog. Midway, the bridge seemed to stretch endlessly, and the driver vanished along with the horses. When search parties arrived, the bridge looked normal, as if nothing had happened. Over time, similar disappearances occurred, with people reporting sudden chills, shifting planks, and shadows moving along the railings. Witnesses describe eerie experiences. The further you walk, the more the bridge seems to lengthen unnaturally. Fog curls along the river below, hiding shapes that glance upward, watching silently. Travelers report hearing faint voices calling their names, whispers carried by the wind, and the sensation of hands brushing against their backs, urging them forward. One hiker claimed to see their own reflection in the water below, pale, terrified, and moving independently. In 1979, a group of teenagers dared to cross the bridge at night. Halfway across, the fog thickened into a dense wall, and the boards beneath them groaned as though alive. Shadows appeared along the railings, reaching toward them. One teen stepped onto a plank that seemed to vanish, disappearing instantly. The others ran, certain the bridge had tried to trap them, bending space and time to claim its next victim. Locals warn that the Vanishing Bridge does more than haunt the river. It claims the curious and reckless, looping them into a spectral crossing where no exit exists. Those who linger risk being drawn into the mist, their cries echoing across the water for anyone foolish enough to listen. Even today, residents report fog creeping along the old bridge, faint footsteps on empty planks, and ghostly whispers calling travelers forward. Some swear they see figures at the far end, waiting silently for the next victim. If you ever approach the old bridge in Sem City after dark, do not cross, do not follow the whispers, because the Vanishing Bridge waits patiently, and some who step onto its planks are never seen again. Number 4. The Hollow House, Sem City's Eternal Shadows. On a quiet street in Sem City, an old Victorian house stands abandoned, its windows boarded and paint peeling. Locals whisper about the Hollow House, claiming it is filled with shadows that move of their own accord and echo the lives of those who once lived there. The story begins in 1920, when a wealthy family mysteriously vanished overnight. Neighbors reported hearing soft music, laughter, and crying coming from the house, but when authorities investigated, It was empty. No signs of struggle, no footprints outside, only the faint scent of perfume lingering in the halls. Soon after, sightings began. Shadowy figures behind the windows, lights flickering at night, and soft whispers that seemed to know visitors' secrets. Visitors who enter the Hollow House report chilling experiences. The floors creak under invisible footsteps, mirrors reflect figures that aren't there, and rooms appear to shift when no one is looking. One urban explorer claimed to see the dining room full of ghostly people, frozen mid-meal, staring silently as he tried to escape. Another reported hearing a child's laughter that followed him up the staircase, only to vanish when he reached the attic. In 1964, a group of teenagers dared to spend a night inside. The temperature dropped drastically, and shadows moved along the walls, stretching unnaturally. Doors slammed, windows rattled, and faint voices whispered names and secrets, coaxing the intruders deeper. One of them disappeared after reaching for a rocking chair in the parlor. The others fled at dawn, claiming the house seemed alive, reshaping itself, keeping them trapped just long enough to terrify them beyond reason. Locals warn that the Hollow House doesn't just haunt its structure, it traps souls, replaying lives that ended long ago. Anyone who lingers risks being absorbed into the shadows, becoming part of the house itself, forever moving silently through its halls. Even today, pedestrians report seeing faint lights in the boarded windows, shadows pacing behind broken glass, and whispers carried on the wind calling their names. Some swear that if you peek inside too long, the house watches, waits, and may never let you leave. If you ever pass the Hollow House in Sem City at night, do not enter. Do not follow the whispers, because the Hollow House waits patiently, and some who step inside are never seen again.
Number 5. The Frozen Railroad, Sem City's Lost Passengers. Outside Sem City, an abandoned railroad cuts through dense forests and icy fields. Locals whisper of the frozen railroad, claiming the trains still run at night, carrying passengers who vanished decades ago, their screams echoing faintly across the tracks. The story begins in 1935, when a passenger train derailed during a harsh winter storm. Some were killed instantly, others were never found. Survivors spoke of strange occurrences afterward, glimpses of phantom trains, lights appearing in the distance where no tracks exist, and whispers calling names along the frozen rails. Fishermen, hikers, and even drivers have reported seeing a spectral locomotive moving silently through the fog, its whistle piercing the cold night air. Witnesses describe terrifying encounters. The rails seem to stretch endlessly, bending and twisting impossibly. Shadows move across the snow, shaped like passengers frozen in mid-step. One urban explorer claimed he saw himself walking on the tracks, pale and stiff, mirroring his movements. Only when he stopped, the reflection kept walking, stepping towards him. Others hear the clatter of phantom wheels and muffled cries calling for help, though the train itself never touches the ground. In 1978, a group of thrill-seekers tried to follow the railroad by foot during a foggy night. The further they went, the heavier the air became, as if the forest itself resisted them. Suddenly, ghostly lights appeared ahead, and they saw figures boarding a train that seemed to float above the rails. One of them stepped closer, drawn by the soft whistle, and vanished instantly. The others fled, claiming the tracks had shifted behind them, looping them into the forest until they found a road. Locals insist the frozen railroad doesn't simply haunt the area, it traps the living, looping them into its spectral journey where no exit exists. Even today, Hikers and drivers report faint train whistles in the distance, lights flickering in the fog, and shadows moving along the rails. Some swear they hear whispered names, coaxing them towards the phantom locomotive. If you ever find yourself near the abandoned railroad outside Sem City at night, do not approach. Do not follow the lights, because the frozen railroad waits patiently, and some who step onto its path are never seen again.
Number 6. The Lighthouse Keeper, Sim City's Watcher in the Fog. On a rocky cliff overlooking the turbulent waters of Sim City stands an old lighthouse, long abandoned but still feared by locals. They call it the Lighthouse of the Lost, warning that the spirit of its last keeper haunts the beacon, eternally searching for ships that never arrive. The story begins in 1917 when the lighthouse keeper, a man named Elias Ward, disappeared during a violent storm. Some say he went mad trying to save a vessel lost in the fog. Others whisper that something from the sea pulled him into the darkness. Ever since, people have reported strange lights flashing from the tower, even though no electricity runs to it, and ghostly footsteps climbing the spiral staircase late at night. Visitors who approach the lighthouse report chilling experiences. The metal stairs creak under invisible weight, and the air smells of salt, decay, and something undefinable, like the ocean itself is watching. Some swear they hear a hoghorn blast from nowhere, followed by whispers warning them to leave. Others see the keeper's shadow pacing at the top of the tower, lanterns swinging, gazing toward the horizon, waiting for ships that will never come. In 1964, a group of explorers climbed the lighthouse one stormy night. As they reached the lantern room, a sudden cold engulfed them, and a pale figure appeared, staring silently with hollow eyes. One explorer reached for the lantern, and the figure vanished, leaving the man trembling and alone at the top. When he descended, the spiral staircase seemed longer, winding impossibly, as if the lighthouse itself had grown to trap him. Locals warn that the lighthouse keeper does more than haunt the cliffs. He claims the curious, luring them into the tower's eternal watch. Those who linger risk being trapped in its spiraling staircases, endlessly searching for something that will never appear. Even today, on foggy nights, fishermen report seeing the light of the lighthouse swinging in the distance, hearing faint footsteps climbing the stairs and soft whispers carried by the wind. Some swear the keeper calls their names, beckoning them closer to the lantern room. If you ever find yourself near the old lighthouse in Sim City at night, do not climb, do not follow the light, because the lighthouse keeper waits patiently, and some who enter are never seen again.
Number 7. The Shadow Woods, Sem City's Dark Forest. Just outside Sem City lies a dense, foreboding forest known to locals as the Shadow Woods. Few dare to enter after dark because those who do often report being watched, followed, or even led deeper into the trees by unseen forces, sometimes never returning at all. The legend dates back to the early 1900s when trappers and hunters began disappearing mysteriously within the woods. The few who returned told chilling tales of shadowy figures moving between the trees, whispering in voices that sounded both familiar and alien. Some claimed the trees themselves seemed alive, bending and twisting to obscure paths as if the forest wanted to keep intruders inside. Visitors describe terrifying encounters. The deeper you go, the darker the forest becomes, even under a full moon. Fog rises from the ground, carrying whispers that echo your fears. Travelers report seeing fleeting shapes just beyond the corner of their eyes, figures that vanish the moment you look directly at them. One hiker swore he saw a shadow mimic his every movement, but slightly delayed, and when he tried to escape, it was always a step ahead.
In 1967, a group of explorers ventured into the shadow woods at night. Soon, the forest seemed to twist around them. Every path they took led them in circles, while whispers grew louder, speaking their secrets and fears aloud. One member vanished after following a faint, glowing light deeper into the woods. The others fled, claiming the shadows themselves had pushed them out, herding them towards safety, or perhaps only letting them leave because the forest had claimed enough for the night. Locals warn that the shadow woods do more than haunt. They trap the living, bending reality, feeding on curiosity, and ensnaring those who dare wander too far. Those who linger risk being swallowed by the darkness, becoming part of the forest's eternal watch. Even today, hikers report feeling cold hands brush against their shoulders, seeing glowing eyes among the branches, and hearing their names called softly, carried on the wind. Some swear that if you listen too long, the shadows will step closer, waiting for the next lost soul. If you ever find yourself at the edge of the shadow woods in Sem City after nightfall, do not enter. Do not follow lights or whispers, because the shadow woods wait patiently, and some who wander inside are never seen again.
Number 8. The Vanishing Inn, Sem City's eternal guests. In a quiet corner of Sem City stands an inn that has been abandoned for decades. Locals call it the Vanishing Inn, warning that travelers who spend the night there often disappear, leaving their rooms empty but strangely untouched, as if they were never there. The story begins in 1929, when a traveling merchant checked into the inn during a snowstorm. By morning, he had vanished, leaving behind a warm cup of coffee still steaming on the table. Soon other guests reported strange phenomena: whispers in empty hallways, doors slamming on their own, and fleeting shadows passing through walls. Visitors describe chilling encounters. The inn seems to rearrange itself at night, hallways stretching longer than possible, staircases looping back on themselves, and mirrors reflecting rooms that don't exist. One explorer claimed he saw guests from decades past sitting in the dining room, frozen mid-meal, their eyes following him silently. Others have felt icy hands brush their shoulders, only to turn and see no one there. In 1968, a group of thrill-seekers decided to spend a night documenting the inn. As midnight approached, the air grew cold, and the shadows seemed to move independently, stretching across the walls and ceilings. One member followed a faint light into a guest room and vanished instantly. The others fled at dawn, swearing that the inn had shifted around them, looping them in corridors that didn't exist before. Locals believe the Vanishing Inn does more than haunt its rooms. It traps the living, replaying the lives of lost guests endlessly. Anyone who lingers risks becoming part of the inn's eternal occupants, wandering its hallways in silence, waiting for the next visitor to arrive. Even today, people report faint lights in the windows, soft whispers calling their names, and the sensation of being watched from empty rooms. Some swear that if you linger too long, the inn will claim you, just as it has for decades. If you ever pass the Vanishing Inn in Sem City at night, do not enter, do not answer the whispers, because the Vanishing Inn waits patiently, and some who spend the night are never seen again.
Number 9. The Phantom Lighthouse, Sem City's Watcher of the Sea. Perched on a jagged cliff overlooking the frigid waters near Sem City stands a lighthouse long abandoned, yet locals whisper that it still shines its light on stormy nights. They call it the Phantom Lighthouse, haunted by the spirit of its last keeper, eternally scanning the seas for ships that will never return. The story begins in 1915 when a violent storm trapped the lighthouse keeper, Samuel Reed, inside while waves crashed against the rocks below. He vanished that night, leaving only his lantern behind.
Since then, sailors and townsfolk report seeing a pale light swinging from the tower, footsteps echoing along the spiral staircase, and a shadowy figure at the top, gazing over the waves as if waiting for lost ships. Witnesses describe eerie encounters. The lighthouse emits a cold, unnatural glow, and the air smells sharply of salt and decay. Some hear the faint whistle of the foghorn and voices calling their names. Others see the keeper's ghost pacing the lantern room, lantern in hand, his face pale and hollow. One explorer reported climbing to the top only to see the spiral staircase stretch impossibly, twisting as though the lighthouse itself had grown to trap him. In 1969, a group of local adventurers dared to spend the night inside. As darkness fell, the tower groaned and shadows shifted across the walls. One member claimed a hand gripped his shoulder while a whisper urged him toward the lantern. He bolted, but the others swear they still saw his pale form pacing at the top of the tower long after he fled. Locals warn that the Phantom Lighthouse does more than haunt. It claims the curious, luring them into an eternal watch over the sea. Those who linger risk being trapped in its spiral staircase, forever scanning the horizon, waiting for ships that will never arrive. Even today, fishermen and hikers report the light flashing through the fog, ghostly footsteps climbing unseen stairs, and whispers carried on the wind. Some swear that if you follow the lantern too closely, the keeper's shadow will reach for you, pulling you into the tower forever. If you ever approach the lighthouse near Sem City after dark, do not enter, do not follow the light, because the Phantom Lighthouse waits patiently, and some who climb its stairs are never seen again.
Number 10. The Forgotten Hospital, Sem City's Silent Wards. On the outskirts of Sem City lies a crumbling hospital that has been abandoned for decades. Locals call it the Forgotten Hospital, claiming the spirits of patients and staff still roam its halls, echoing screams, whispers, and the eerie hum of long unused medical equipment. The story begins in 1938 when a deadly outbreak struck the city. The hospital was overwhelmed, and many patients died alone. Rumors say some doctors conducted experiments in secret, and the spirits of those who suffered never left. Soon, people reported seeing flickering lights in the windows, hearing footsteps echoing in empty corridors, and glimpsing shadowy figures moving between rooms that no longer exist. Visitors described chilling encounters. Hallways stretch farther than they should, and doors open and close on their own. Equipment sometimes activates without power, and faint whispers call out names of the living. One urban explorer claimed to see a patient lying in a bed, staring blankly, then vanish as he blinked. Another said he saw a doctor's shadow pacing endlessly, as if tending to invisible patients. In 1975, a group of teens dared to spend the night in the hospital. As darkness fell, the temperature plummeted, and ghostly groans filled the halls. Shadows seemed to move independently, and one teen vanished after following a faint light down a hallway. The others fled, claiming the hospital had shifted its interior, trapping them in rooms that weren't there before. Locals warn that the Forgotten Hospital does more than haunt its building. It traps souls, replaying the final moments of the living and the dead endlessly. Those who linger risk becoming part of the hospital itself, wandering the silent wards forever. Even today, hikers and urban explorers report cold drafts in empty rooms, flickering lights in broken windows, and whispers calling their names. Some swear that if you peek inside too long, the hospital will claim you as its next patient. If you ever approach the old hospital in Sem City at night, do not enter. Do not follow the whispers, because the Forgotten Hospital waits patiently,
and some who step inside are never seen again.